Welcome to the Private Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Storm, here to help you unlock the mind, business, and spirit of your private practice success. So whether you're just starting out or you're looking to grow, this is the place for you if you really want to create a thriving private practice. Before we dive in, I want to share something that can really make a difference in your business. Imagine having an expert in your pocket, someone available on demand whenever you need guidance. Well, that's exactly what my new program, Practice Momentum, offers. With over 30 years of experience at your fingertips, you can now get the support you need whenever you need it. Curious? Head over to brooklynstorm.com to learn more. And now let's get into today. Okay, so welcome to another episode of the Private Practice Podcast. Welcome if you're brand new, and of course, welcome if you've been listening for a little while. You're in for a treat today because, I used a different way. Well, it's not a different way. Let me backtrack. Over the last little while, so since I went away to Dalesford, I had a very powerful experience there. As you know, if you're new, you haven't heard it, you can go back and listen to the episode where I discussed it in loads of detail, probably too much detail because sometimes I overshare. But anyway, what happened was whatever language you want to use, I just say my higher self, right? But you could call it your consciousness, your soul, your intuition, your inner knowing. I was really having some great experiences with that, and coming back, I've tried to be more mindful and intentional and conscientious when it comes to leaning into that. And so this is going somewhere. This is about today's episode, actually. But in my business, I've been trying to use journaling because that's what really works for me in terms of being able to access that sort of inner knowing. I've been trying to use that most days when I remember and I allow myself space to work with the journal, work with the pen and see what comes through. And I'm using that for all kinds of things, from what I send out in an email, what I talk to you about today on a podcast, how I want to show up for people, what people are needing from me, all those kinds of things. So I'm using this process in conjunction with other, regular, more traditional processes to run and grow my business, and it's working really well. And so today, if you want to go down the woo path, I'm more than happy to do that. I can tell you like stories and everything, but I might wait for a little bit. Let's go on with the show first. And then if I remember, we can come back to that. And that way people can get the information that they want and then click off if they don't want to hear it. How's that? Okay. So anyway, I just felt guided to use my cards I just really wanted to be able to, see whether or not my higher consciousness, my higher self, my source guides, all those kinds of things might be able to work through me and give me the cards that would give me some insight for today's podcast episode. And I was doing it kind of seriously, but kind of because I thought it would be fun too. And I chose a deck of cards. As you know, I collect tarot and oracle card decks and rare decks, but this one is not rare, though it may be because there's been a subsequent edition. So now I'm very excited. But anyway, these cards, for those of you who are interested, are by Sonia Cicchetti. They're called Ask Your Guides Oracle cards. And she's got a new version of them out now, but I'm using the original. So anyway, I thought, let's just see what happens. And I was going to tell you a story today because I sent out an email earlier in the week. It's had like a lot of interest, so I thought I might just speak into that a little bit more today, which I will. But before I do, I thought, let's have a go with the cards and see what happens. And would you believe, of all the cards, like I don't know how many are in this particular deck. There is a little guidebook. I'm sure it's going to tell me somewhere. 52. There you go. It's got 52 cards. And the cards that came out were survival, And then the next one was priorities. And then the next one was bravado. And straight away, I knew instantly what this was about. This is about national standards, which was not something I want to talk about today because I feel like I've done it to death. And it's so important, I know, but not everybody who listens to this podcast is impacted by them. So I still want to keep the content relevant. So I'm just going to keep this short. But when we're thinking about survival and priorities and bravado, a few things came out, right? So this initial card, what it looks like is somebody's on a little tinny boat and they're out in the middle of the ocean and the sharks circling, right? And they're standing up in the boat. They're obviously feeling very alone, probably scared, isolated, at risk, worried. And so, yeah, straight when I saw that, I knew that this whole spread was going to be about people who are very worried and scared and anxious and feel like the sharks are circling when it comes to the national standards for counsellors and psychotherapists. Yeah, you can go back to previous episodes. All the links are in there and stuff like that. But I felt like this was really important because I do want to acknowledge the fear and the anxiety that's come up. And I think too, there's a lot of sort of misinformation that's going around at the moment. And also, it feels to me, and again, this is only my opinion, but it feels to me like people have a little bit of the story and they don't have the full story, and they're running with that little bit of the story, and they think that they know the full picture, and actually they don't, and it's causing more harm than good. We're seeing this in one of the counsellors groups online on Facebook that's for people who've got a diploma. It's really problematic. There are a couple of I think people that maybe just have a different perspective, maybe don't have access to all the information, maybe, I don't know, just as I said, just my sense. But what I do know is it's causing a lot of upset for people. Anyway, so if you're one of the ones that's been upset, I would say maybe don't go into community groups. Maybe get your information from the department. You can go onto their website and do that, or get information from your body. So PACFA are very good at sharing information. As I said before, I just haven't seen ACA be as transparent with information. I'm still not sure why they didn't do much advocacy, especially considering they're the only peak body for people who do have a diploma. Or you can also go and you can send an email to the Vocational Mental Health Professionals Association of Australia. Oh my gosh, it's such a mouthful. They will be more than happy to answer any questions that you've got regarding your diploma and what you can and can't do and all those kinds of things. And they're really responsive. And if you do have a diploma or an advanced diploma or something like that, and you're studying, you can have free membership with them. If you are finished with your study, then you become a member. They're giving away 18 months free instead of 12 months when you get an annual membership, so that's nice too. But anyway, there are places around that can support you, so make sure that you're getting information from trusted sources. But yes, many of you probably feeling very much like you're in survival mode at the moment, and so it's requiring you to look at your priorities, because what's happening is there's a big, this is something I talk about with the Women in Momentum, like almost on a daily basis. This is happening for somebody somewhere. There's a values conflict, right? This is what we've seen in, the national standards. And it's been interesting too, because people that are less affected, right? People who have maybe a higher degree, tertiary qualification, thing like that. They've been so supportive and saying this is not like what PACFA is doing, and how PACFA are behaving is not a representation of all members. We disagree. We don't want to be represented like that. There are people that have said to me they're going to be releasing their PACFA registration. There are people who've said similar things who have a master's degree, over in ACA, they're at level 4 and they're also supervisors saying the same thing. They say their membership body just abandoned people who had a diploma and they're mortified, and they're not going to be renewing their membership with the ACA. So understand that there's levels of support for people who have a diploma that you might not be aware of. But anyway, with the values conflict, I believe that what happens is when you feel aggrieved, when you feel like, somebody's moved your cheese, all those kinds of things, it's because something's happening around you, to you, without your permission, and it's happening in a way that conflicts with the things that drive you every single day, right? Now, they're not things that you think about all the time because they're in your subconscious awareness, but they drive how you show up. They drive your behaviors. They drive, how you feel about things, all of that sort of good stuff. But I also believe that when we have a values conflict, while it feels so uncomfortable and you can feel all of the negative emotions. I mean, I shouldn't say negative actually, because I don't actually believe that there's negative and positive emotions. I believe all emotions are equal and they've all got a place, right? But what I mean when I say negative emotions is I'm talking to you about things like anger, betrayal, resentment, frustration, those kinds of things, right? You have absolutely every right to feel them. But I feel too, and what I choose to believe is that whenever there's a problem, the solution's also present at the same time. And I think that if we're caught up in the emotional response and we're reacting to this thing that's happening that's going against our values, we can lose sight of what's at stake, and we can lose sight of the bigger picture. And when that happens, we're not able then to see the answer. We're not able to see the solution. And I think that's perhaps where a lot of us have been stuck, in the fear, in the anger, in the groundswell of how dare they and things like that. But I feel too that when things like this happen, these really big things, they require us to return to clarity about the things that are really, really important to us. And I think maybe in a way that happens for us, because otherwise maybe we would just keep kind of bobbing along. So I like to think that although it's unpleasant and it's uncomfortable and you don't want to be going through this at the moment, there's part of me that chooses to believe that maybe this is happening for people who have a diploma. And hear me out, I'll tell you why I think this. I think that, and I'm just totally generalizing based on my experience. Now I know, there are thousands of people who've got a diploma that I have no contact with. So I'm just talking about the ones that I have had contact with. But I know that it's not only counselling that they do. I know many of them have, different approaches that they like to draw upon, or different therapeutic modalities that they like to use, right? And I feel like with everything that's happening and, with the national standards, right, it's going to be a big push for counsellors, and I don't know how quickly this will happen. This is my prediction. It's not based on fact that I know. This is just my prediction. They're already talking about using only evidence-based modalities, right? Now, what's going to happen is the people who are in the membership bodies like ACA and PACFA that embody, embrace, go along with the standards, they invoke them, use them, require all their members abide by them. What's going to happen is a lot of women in private practice especially are going to be very affected and might not realize how. If they've got a practice where they're counselling at the moment and they're using modalities and drawing upon those in sessions that are not evidence-based, then they'll be in breach of the standards and there's disciplinary action associated with that for them. it means that they're not going to be able to work in a soul aligned way, perhaps. I'm not saying that evidence based strategies aren't soul aligned, but I feel like personally an evidence-based strategy such as CBT or EMDR, things like that, I feel like they're quite formulaic, and I feel like they're cold, and I feel like they're a little bit mechanical. I don't feel like there's, it's not really, I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. But there are so many people, counsellors with a diploma, counsellors without, that have a private practice that draw upon all these different modalities. If you're working to the national standards under I was going to say jurisdiction, leadership of ACA and PACFA, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. And you're going to be you're going to be restricted in your practice to using only evidence-based tools. And guess what? Who's going to decide what's considered, evidence-based, and who's going to decide what isn't, right? It's not going to be, let's put it out to all of our members and take a vote. That's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen, more likely than not, is they're going to look to psychology. They're going to look to Medicare. They're going to look to all those kinds of things. And guess what? If you use a modality and it's not on Medicare's list, it ain't going to be approved. This is my prediction. Now, if you go and have a look, which you can do right now if you like, you can go and Google it. You can get the Medicare list of approved interventions up there. You will see all the work by Gabor Mate, not approved, not evidence-based. You know what I mean? Neurodivergent stuff, all of those beautiful women who are working with clients and families and women and stuff like this, women with late diagnosed ADHD and autism and things like that. You won't be able to do any of that work because that's not even recognised by Medicare. And, the strategies under there are also not evidence-based. So if your whole practice is in that niche, you're going to have to change your niche and become probably generalist, which is going to make it harder for you to find clients, potentially. And are you really going to love the work that you're doing if you're told that you can only do this? Like if you've had access to, I don't know, the Derwent color pencil deluxe tray of 300 different color pencils to do all your coloring in with, and now somebody's said, well, we're going to take that away so that you can get rebates, and from now on this is the only pencil that you can color with, and it's like a grey lead. It's a 2HB. Probably not what you're expecting, right? Guess who's going to still be coloring in with all the color pencils? The people with a diploma. And guess what? Their practices, I predict, are going to fill up with the clients of all the counsellors that will no longer be able to do that work. And it's going to happen quickly. So, because here's the thing. Anyone can call themselves a counsellor. It's not a protected title. Same with psychotherapist. Anyone can go and have a private practice. It's totally fine. These rules of the national standards don't apply to you unless you're in the ACA or PACFA. And guess what? You don't have to be. There are plenty of other places you can go. You can go to what's it called? Certified Practicing Counsellors Australia or Victorian Counselling Federation, or do you know what I mean? There's plenty. The Victorian, why do I keep saying that? It's because I get the V in my head. The Vocational and Mental Health Professionals Association of Australia. You can go there, right? Still do all your stuff. Totally fine. So I feel like with all this stuff that's happening, I think the initial reaction for so many counsellors who had a diploma was fear, and I'm going to lose my business, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, But when we start to drill down and unpack the standards a little bit more, it doesn't look anywhere near as scary as that for you. I think the people that should be scared are the ones who have a tertiary degree, because they're not going to be able to run their businesses most likely in the way that they have been. And I think, I would be, if I was them, I'd be starting to plan for that now and think, okay, I either need to get familiar with, the most likely culprits in terms of evidence-based stuff. Go and get myself a qualification in it now. So I would be doing that right now if I were you, and I'd be starting to maybe just prepare for, when it comes down, everything comes from the top down, when eventually you're told, hey, as a counsellor from now on, from this point forward, you are only allowed to use evidence-based interventions, because you're not going to be able to continue to work with the clients that you've been working with in these more holistic, integrative, all the ways. Important to think about that. And again, it's only my take on it, and who knows, 6 months, 12 months from now, we'll have a better idea of the lay of the land. But this is what I think's going to happen. And so in a way, coming back to people who've got a diploma for a second, maybe this dismantling, right, this dismantling of the old systems, maybe you and I can both see that in some ways. I know this is going to be hard to hear for people who aren't spiritual, so just stay with me for 1 second if you're not. just tune out for 1 second if you're not. But for those of you who are, maybe, we speak about like these different levels of consciousness and conscious awareness in the world and the community and stuff like that, moving away from that 3D reality and moving into 4 and 5D, right? Maybe this needed to happen to create space for you to do what you're doing bigger, even more of it, really leaning into it. Because here's the thing, over there, right, where all the people with a higher education are, those clients aren't going to be served anymore, most likely, right? I'm sure there'll be some counsellors that try and do it under the radar and, try and find, loopholes and things. But by and large, they're not going to be able to do the work that they've been doing, nor will they be able to do it with the clients that they've been working with. So what's going to happen for all those clients? They're going to need a new practitioner. And guess what? They're probably not going to stay with the practitioner that they're working with. If they've been doing work around I don't know, like I'm just making it up now, but let's say they've been doing like a holistic integrative work and things like that. Maybe they've been drawing upon intuitive practices or do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. They're not going to stay with the therapist that they're working with now if that therapist is going to flip the switch and say, oh yes, sorry, but there were some changes made to how counsellors are allowed to work, and from now on it's going to feel cold and clinical and formulaic, because those clients deliberately sought out counsellors to work with and therapists to work with that didn't use evidence-based approaches. You follow? So all those clients are going to, right, it's ebb and flow, right? Those clients, it feels like ebb now, but the flow's coming. Those clients are going to have to be seen by someone, and they don't want to be working in medical models. Okay, there's a place for the people with the tertiary degrees that want to work in that space. Absolutely. Will there be clients for them? Of course there will. There's an abundance of clients for everyone, but the tides are turning, right? Those people, those therapists are probably going to get clients that maybe, I don't know, something to do with Medicare. Maybe they've used up all their sessions on Medicare or something like that. Maybe then they'll go over to the counsellors. I don't know. But there's clients, obviously, that are happy to do all the Medicare stuff. There's plenty of psychologists with waiting lists and social workers with waiting lists, as we all know. So they're not going to be at a loss. They'll pick up the overflow of clients that are waiting to be seen by psychologists and social workers. And in the meantime, they're going to need to release the beautiful souls that they're working with who want to work in the spiritual soul-aligned ways that many of you do, in the integrative ways, in the holistic ways. And guess what? There's going to be nothing to stop you from doing that. Nothing. Those standards are not legislated. They're not enforceable. It's not illegal. You're totally within your rights to go and still call yourself a counsellor, still have a private practice, still work in the way that you want to work. And there's not anything anybody can do about it. as I understand it. But anywho, so that's where I feel like this card around the priorities comes in. I think it's really such an important and relevant card. And then the last card that came out when I was asking for, as I said, guidance for what to talk with you about on the podcast would be super helpful today was bravado. And basically this card is really talking about understanding that there are going to be people that want to lead the way and fight the fight. And I'm one of them, right? I'm one of them. But my fight is a personal one for me because I personally, I get very fixated on things as part of my autism. Although, we don't use the phrase high functioning anymore because it's not cool and people find it offensive. But I use it for me to describe me and how I feel. I feel like for the most part I'm high functioning. It's social stuff I struggle with, which is ridiculous given my profession. But anyway, I get fixated on things. And one of the things that I get fixated on is when one of my values is compromised. And one of my values is things being fair and things being just. And as I've said to you before, my qualifications are in psychology and coaching and business. I don't, I don't have a bachelor of counselling or a diploma of counselling, even though it's what psychologists do all day long. It's not acknowledged by ACA or PACFA. So from that respect, I am not with ACA, I'm not with PACFA, I'm not with anyone. I'm just so upset about this injustice. I don't have skin in this game. What propels me is wanting there to be equity, and there clearly hasn't been. And I'm fighting for that. And it just happens that I'm fighting for people with a diploma. And it is my pleasure to do that, to get in there and roll up my sleeves every single day, send letters, send emails, send petition links, do all of the things. I'm there every single day doing it because I am so driven by this, right? But at the same time, don't allow yourself to be controlled by others anymore, right? Don't allow yourself to be controlled by others. What's happening now, and you sort of questioning things, those of you who've started to question things, this is you having an unfolding. This is you experiencing expansion, the beginnings of it. This is you experiencing a sign of your own progress, right? You are allowed to claim agency. You are allowed to claim personal authority over all kinds of things. Your life, yes, but your business, yes, absolutely. And there's no one forcing you to go along with national standards or be part of the ACL PACFA. You've got options, all right? This is an opportunity for you to really embody what it means to be self-directed in your work, in the way that you want to show up, in your profession, all those kinds of things, right? And to really, truly take responsibility for yourself, okay? It's totally okay to feel like, this is all big. It is big, right? But also understand that there's day, there's night, there's up, there's down, there's left, there's right. Just while it feels like there's all these forces and people and, everyone's working against you, there's the same amount happening on the other side of people working for you. You just can't see it. The voices aren't as big or as loud. They're still there though, and they're still working. So not everyone and everything is against you. There's supports there. Like anything, you just have to get it into your awareness and you will start to see it more. All right. So anyway, that was the start of the episode based on, what I felt like was shared with me from my higher self through these cards to talk to you about. Okay, So I hope that that was helpful. What I really wanted to talk with you about today, though, was this. Okay. It's about how do I want to introduce this? One of the beautiful souls that I work with in Practice Momentum. I love working with her so much. Oh my gosh, she has done so well, right? Just to give you context before I tell the story, right? Because of course that's going to help. So she came because, life changes. Think separation, divorce, something like that was happening in the background. Anyway, she joined the program because she was in a position where she needed money, right? She had this private practice, but it wasn't making money. She didn't know why. She thought she was doing all of the things, right? The story that so many of us can absolutely relate to. And anyway, when we started working together, it was really, really hard for her to do things because, again, just she had like a really hard background, personally speaking. And so she found it difficult to receive guidance. She found it difficult to trust a process, difficult to accept acknowledgement of, progress, wins, of celebration. Like everything was just difficult. It was a lot of mindset stuff, a lot of identity stuff. Anywho, over the last few months, so I think she's been in my world now for 4 or 5 months. It was slow initially because of all of this, right? So I could tell her straight away, this is what we need to do. It's got to be this, this, and this. But there were things that were coming up for her around like, that's not going to work for me. Done something similar to that before. Next, all this kind of stuff. But I could see beyond it to her heart and her soul. And I could see that what was coming up was other stuff. And I was more than happy to hold the space and support her as she worked through that in her own time. So there was more dismantling, there's that word again, that needed to happen. And it wasn't going to be anything quick. But while she's doing all of that over here, over there, she's dealing with, really big personal stuff in her personal life. And then over there, she's worrying about the money and the finances and the clients and, which is then leading to imposter syndrome, which is then making her, feeding into the resistance and the defensiveness and all of this again. And it's just like, it's big being her, right? So big. And then, while all of this is happening, what she does is essentially levels her business. And I mean levels it to the ground, and we start building it. But building the business from scratch, brand new, in a way, so dismantling again. That should be the theme of this podcast, yeah. But building it in a way that was going to work for her. And so she got a new logo, and then she, didn't have $5,000 to pay somebody to go and do a website for her or anything like that, but I had a template. So I said to her, well, we're going to just use a template then, and you're going to make your own website. And she freaked out, meltdown, I think part of her maybe wanted me to do it for her because she was finding it difficult at times. And boy, I would have loved to have done it for her as well, but I didn't because I wanted her to have the growth. I really, 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 really wanted that. Anyway, the website's done. She's proud as punch, totally loving it. There are other people, not in Practice Momentum, but like in the, therapist community that are, saying, oh, I've got to pay my website person because I need to go and update this or update that. But, it's not really bothering my client because she's like, well, I can just go in and change mine anytime I want. And it was like such a big deal for her to do that. And then there were things along the way, it'd be like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And she was like, oh, I got an inquiry. And then we'd be celebrating that she got an inquiry. And then, later on, she'd say to me, well, of course they want a Medicare. Everyone wants something for free. And it was just like, boom, back down. So then it's like, rebuild. And it just turned out that she didn't have a lot of processes, and she didn't know that she didn't have a lot of processes. But to me, it was really clear. And so I was able to give her those. But again, it was like mindset. Without having the right mindset, the best processes just aren't going to work, or you're not going to use them, or you won't use them well, or you'll only use them like a little bit here and there and stuff like that. Anyway, yeah, it all got sorted out, and bit by bit, she's been doing all of this stuff. And then the other day, a whole bunch of the women inside the program were sort of around the 3 or 4 month mark recently. And so I love to offer them an opportunity to workshop their plans with me for the next 90 days. And yeah, they don't have to do this, but I really do recommend it, because otherwise I feel like, we need to know where we're going, and you need to have a plan to get there. Otherwise, you're not going to get results. And the ones who've got the plans are getting like these awesome results. And so, yeah, I keep just saying to them, let's have a workshop session. So we just spend a morning together and we go over everyone's plans. And yeah, anywho, she had said to me, I feel like nothing's working now. It's like, as I said, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. She's made so much progress, and she's getting inquiries and she's converting them, but she's still saying she's not sure if it's working. And anyway, I said to her, okay, so how did you go with your plan? Did you make a plan? Are you going to make a plan? Is that something you like to do? Yeah, I want to have a plan. I said, great. I said, well, let me know what it is. She's like, I haven't made it. I said, okay. I said, do you want help with it? No. All right. Well, keep me posted. Anyway, she comes back to me a couple of days later about something else altogether, something else entirely different. And then I said to her, hey, how'd you go? Like, what are you focusing on for the next 90 days? And she goes, I don't know, probably just getting clients. Sorry, just had to have a sip of my tea because I'm going to cough. Probably just getting more clients, she says. And I said to her, okay, well, it's probably better if we actually make a proper plan. Do you have your numbers there? So I get them all to track numbers. Again, I don't force anybody to do this, but I wouldn't be a very good business coach if I didn't say we need to know the number situation. So I give them all these tools that they can use and stuff like that. They're really easy. They've got simple ones for people who just want something really simple. And then there's like really detailed ones for people who want to like really deep dive into the numbers and stuff. So anyway, something for everyone kind of thing. Anyway, she goes to me, the numbers. I'm like, yeah, the numbers. She says, oh, yeah, I'll get them to you, which I took to mean she hadn't done them. A little while later, she sends me a screenshot, and I can't make head or tail of it. It's something about, I think she had like a list of how many bookings there'd been and like the category for them or something. Anyway, it was like, I couldn't do anything with this information. So I go back to her and I'm like, hey, really appreciate you sending that through. Great that you've got that, but I actually need this, that. And then she says to me, okay, Brooklyn, I don't have it. I look at it and I know that I should be doing it, but just can't. And the reason that I can't is because I just am avoiding it. I know that when I have to go and write down my numbers, it's just going to be the universe showing me how crap I am at business. And that's going to make me feel bad about myself. And I don't really want to feel, bad about myself. So I just really rather not do it. And so it was really interesting. So then we started having a conversation about this. And because, again, we've got mindset, right? So talking with her about all of this and blah, 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 blah. Long story short, one of the things that she says to me, one of the things I said to her, because she was feeling like it was going to be really, really hard, I just attempted a little reframe. And I said, okay, let's imagine though, let's put hard aside for a moment. Like if hard wasn't available to you, right? We're just putting a pin in hard for a minute. Let's imagine like it got to be easy. Like what if, hypothetically speaking, what if it got to be easy? Like what would that look like if doing the numbers got to be easy. And straight away, she says, well, it's not. It's like a really steep climb. It's like climbing a mountain. It's like climbing Mount Everest. And once I'm at the top of Everest, then I will say it was easy. And I thought, okay. And then I went away and I helped her through it. Of course, I helped her through it. But then I went away and, in the afternoon, I love to give myself time out. So for me, the way that I look after my health and well-being, my mental health and well-being, especially because of the neurodivergence, is I need space, right? I need stillness and I need space. So you can find me most late afternoons before dinner in the bath. I'll usually be in there for up to 2 hours. I'm usually listening to subliminal things on YouTube for manifesting or, stuff like that. I enjoy doing that for myself. And I'm usually doing a puzzle book, right? It's a logic puzzle or a Sudoku puzzle or something like that. Anyway, so I'm in there, and because it clears my mind, seriously, when I'm just doing those Sudoku puzzles or the logic puzzles, my brain can't do all the things that it wants to do, right? It's totally focused and absorbed. So it calms me. It settles my mind. It calms the energy down in my mind, because otherwise my mind just feels like I'm rushing all the time. I've just got racing thoughts all the time. It doesn't stop. So this is my space. So I'm here having my space, and then I got distracted. Someone sent me a text message, and anyway, I needed to answer it, which then led to me being on my phone, which led to me to scrolling, which means then that my mind is like a dog off the leash. It's just running around like being feral. And I started to think about, the conversation I'd had with her about, things being hard and it'll only be easy once I've summited, kind of thing. And then it just popped into my head, hey, you went to Everest. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right, I did. And then I went into my phone and I started looking at the pictures from Everest. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a totally teachable moment. And I hate that term, teachable moments. One of my old coaches used to say teachable moments to me. And in the beginning, I thought, oh, well, this is so cool and stuff like that. But then it just kind of rubs on me. But yeah, I don't actually hate it. I think it's starting to come back. I think maybe I do really like it. If I was going to name my email, if I sent one out regularly, I would probably name it something like Teachable Moments, just for fun. But Teachable Moments with Brooklyn. But anyway, so I'm sitting there, and then I started to think, yeah, how can I relate my experience of actually hiking up Everest to her experience? And all of a sudden it started to fall into place. I'm going to tell you the story. So settle in, get your coffee. If you're in the car, turn up the heater if you're in Melbourne, because it's so cold outside. Put on your central locking, 2 hands on the wheel, and just get ready to enjoy a nice little story, right? For those of you who don't want to hear a story, that's okay. You can click out. But if you like a story, you're going to like this. Because I'm not going to hold back. I'm just going to tell you everything because, hey, it's just me and you here. And I know you don't judge me, do you? Thank you. I know I knew you didn't. Okay, so, and by the way, it all makes sense, this story. Now I know about the neurodivergence, but I didn't know about it at the time. Anyway, so what was happening was, this is the story, and I'll show you how I'm linking it to what was going on for my client, because it's going to make sense for you too. Don't worry. But it's going to be a longer story. A little while ago, I was hiking, right? Turned out really enjoy hiking. I did it. I started by, I don't know, one day I was thinking that I wanted to meet people. I don't know why I thought that, because it's so not like me to think that. But it was more that I wanted to be around people, but not really talking to them. And anyway, I started thinking about like what could I do, and I thought maybe dancing, because like when you're dancing, of course, yes, you're going to be talking to people in class, but mostly you're dancing and you're not talking to anybody. You're learning the moves, you're listening to the music, you're practicing, you're rehearsing. When the music shuts off, then yes, you're going to be talking to the other people, but it's pretty like low key. So I was thinking about dancing. That got me onto an app. Once I was on the app, then I saw hiking, and I thought, yeah, maybe I'll give that a go, because the pictures on the app were of people walking single file, and that works for me because I can still be around people, but I don't actually have to talk to them, especially if I'm in single file, right? So that was how the hiking started, and I enjoyed it because they were like long hikes. So I really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I used to really, really, really dread any part of the hike that required me to go up a hill, because I was really bad at it. And it wasn't because I wasn't fit. I was just really bad at getting up hills. I would fall down them. I would hurt myself. I would get, pains and aches in my muscles and stuff like that, be out of breath. I would be the last one up. Every single time people would have to wait for me, which put more pressure on me, which then I hated it even more. And yeah, I really struggled getting up hills. And then one day I was on a hike, and our hiking group bumped into other people who happened to be on the same trail. Now, I think we were at the Dandenongs. I'm pretty sure it was Mount Donna Bewang. Have I said that correctly? Mount Donna Bewang. Anyway, in Victoria, really steep hill, right? And anyway, we bump into this other hiking club. Never met them in my life. Start like just having small talk with, both the club members are talking to each other as we're both hiking. And then anyway, this one guy, he sees that I'm struggling to get up the hill, and I'm telling him how hard it is. And then he says, here, just try this. He gives me a big stick, and I use the stick, and hey presto, boom, I'm up the hill, no problem. So then I go on a few more hikes. I'm using the stick. I get really confident using the stick. I'm loving it. So now what's happening is whenever I see a hill approaching, I'm running to the front of the group so that I can like show off a little bit of how good I am at, getting up hills. And then I start, taking it upon myself to go and tell everybody else, get a stick. And that's how you're going to do it, because yeah, I can be bossy sometimes, if you hadn't noticed. Again, part of the autism, I'm sure, but I can be a little bit bossy. So anyway, my confidence was through the roof, right? And of course, people who led the hikes were noticing how well I was coping with the hills, and they were telling me like what a good job I was doing, which was like feeding my ego, and I felt so great. I go to work the next day, boot up the computer, and there's a Groupon email, right? So Groupon is like Scoopon. It's like a great big group buying platform. And yeah, I was getting their emails, and I click on it while I'm having coffee, getting ready to start the day of work. And sure enough, the very first thing that pops up is a thing about Mount Everest. And it's like, yeah, come and trek Mount Everest. And I said, okay. So I just clicked buy now, and I bought myself the ticket. And I just didn't really think anything of it, right? I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And yeah, at lunchtime that day, I started telling people when they were asking me, like, sorry, just had to like clip a little bit there because Buddy decided to bark at a bird. But anyway, yeah, so they're saying to me, oh, how's your morning going? I'm like, yeah, great. Gonna go to Mount Everest, just gonna like do some trekking there. People were like, what? You're gonna do what? And I said, yeah, I'm just gonna go to Mount Everest. As I said, I didn't even see it as a big deal. Sometimes I don't see obvious things, right? I'm really good at business. Like one of my best friends used to say to me, I don't know how you can be so good at business but so bad at life. I don't know. Anyway, I was like, yeah, like, why wouldn't I, sort of thing. I didn't appreciate that it was a big deal. And so other people seemed to think it was a big deal, and that amused me for some reason. Anyway, and then people were saying to me, oh yeah, what are you doing for training? And I was like, training? It's just hiking. Like, I already go, I'm in a hiking club. Like, we go for hikes on the Mornington Peninsula every Saturday. The Mornington Peninsula, oh my goodness. And yeah, people are like, so you're not doing any other trainers? Like, no. And then anyway, I don't know why, but they thought it was like kind of important that you do, but I wasn't following their logic. And then anyway, fast forward a few months, time comes, getting ready for the trip. I didn't really know what to pack, but when you pack, you've got when you hike, you generally have like a hiking pack. You know the ones, the really daggy looking ones that are quite long. That was me. So anyway, I just packed it as I normally would, basically. Anyway, so I just did that, threw it in the boot of the car, did it a couple of days ahead because I knew that I'm forgetful and I didn't want to get to the airport and not have luggage. So did that. And then on the way up to the airport, realised I hadn't packed, correct shoes and stuff like that. Didn't know what to do, pulled off and went to Moorabbin DFO. DFO, it stands for Direct Factory Outlets. Anyway, it's like this discount outlet place. Ran in there. Didn't want to waste time because I had to get to the airport. So the first place I saw was Skechers. So I went into Skechers and got myself some Skechers. Yep. And then, back into the car and got up to the airport. All good. Fly over, and you don't go straight to Everest. You go to Kathmandu. Anyway, go to Kathmandu. Sherpa comes and meets me at the hotel. Sherpa's like, 16. I'm in my mid-40s. It's just him and I. And anyway, all good. And he's basically telling me, yeah, by the way, you need to empty out most of your luggage because you're only allowed to take a certain number of kilos. It was 5 kilos that we're allowed to take. And I'm looking and I'm thinking my pack probably weighs that alone. But anywho, so I'm removing stuff from my backpack. Of course, one of the things that I remove is my first aid kit because I'm probably not going to need that while I'm walking. So bad. I'm thinking I'm not going to need it while I'm walking up the mountain, right? Like, there's no danger. Like, oh gosh, what was I thinking? Anyway, I discard my first aid kit along with other things, right? Anyway, next day, he comes and picks me up. We go to the airport and again, I'm just totally oblivious to all of this because I didn't pay attention to the details. I know now that this was the ADD, right? I know that now. But this is just how I normally get through life, not paying attention to the details. And anyway, he takes me and we arrive at this airport and the plane probably seats, it was like 6 people and 2 pilots. Well, like the pilot and the co-pilot. It was a teeny, tiny, whiny little plane. Teeny tiny weeny. It was a baby plane. And anyway, I was just out there on the tarmac. And so basically you just have to like climb aboard. And it's so cute because there's like this air hostess and she's so beautiful. She's such a darling and she's taken her job so seriously. And she's dressed in this, airline suit and everything. And she's holding a great big silver platter, like this great big silver tray, and it's full of cotton wool balls. And on top of the cotton wool balls is individually little wrapped Mentos. I don't know if the cotton wool balls were there to, represent the clouds or the snow or something. I don't know like why the cotton wool balls were there, but they were there. She had the Mentos and they were the multicolored ones. So anyway, grabbed a couple of those and I pushed my way to the front and got in behind the co-pilot. Very happy. So I'm sitting, if you're facing forward, I'm sitting on the left behind the co-pilot and I've got a window. Everybody's got a window because there's not that many seats, right? Anyway, plane starts up, and it wasn't really that scary. It was a little plane, so it was like put, 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 put. It reminded me of, oh, I've got this cartoon in my mind. It was from like years ago, probably 40 or so years ago. It was this really old cartoon, and there was a pilot and he had a dog, and the dog was called Muttley, and they used to go in the airplane all the time with the goggles and everything. It was kind of like that. It was like put, 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 put. And anyway, we're flying along. And then the co-pilot, I notice, is using Kleenexes to wipe off condensation on the inside of the on the inside of the windscreen. And like, I'm totally fine with it. But why didn't I think there was something not good about that? I was just like taking it in my stride. Just like, yeah. And then anyway, during the flight, the co-pilot turns around. Oh, the seats, right, were just, I don't know if you had these at your high school or not, but you know those orange chairs, and the orange is plastic, and they've kind of got like a little bit of a rough texture on them. Yeah, those were the seats that we were all sitting on, and they'd been somehow like bolted into the plane, but we were all sitting on those. And anyway, it was a little bit different to the Emirates flight over. But anyway, so he turns around and he's telling us all, you know, if you look out the left window, which was on I was sitting beside, you can see the Himalayas. And we'd been looking at mountains the whole time since we got elevation, to be honest. So I don't know how he knew that they were at the point of the Himalayas, but I just took his word for it, and I was like, okay. But then anyway, he's talking about the Himalayas, and I'm looking at them and I'm like so confused because yeah, I just can't figure out like, where does the pink salt come from? You know, the Himalayan pink salt, because these mountains are definitely not pink. They're white and they're black. And actually they're mostly white. But anyway, I'm in my head thinking about this and wondering if like I've fallen prey to a conspiracy theory, and, you know, is it just a marketing ploy that it's pink salt? Maybe it's not actually pink salt. Maybe they put dye in it, like food dye in it, to color it and make it look pink. And maybe it's not really special salt after all. Maybe it's like salt for garnishing and decorating or something. I don't know. So this is what's going on in my head. Meanwhile, I'm aware that people around me are either crying, or they're trying to take pictures and photos, or they're having like panic attacks. But I just keep looking out the window at the mountains. And then anyway, when we land, people start talking. So there wasn't much conversation going on. It was like pretty quiet apart from the crying and the screaming. There wasn't any conversation. But anyway, the plane lands and like it's doing its thing, getting ready to like park or whatever they call it. And people start talking, and then I'm like, why is everybody so upset? And they're like, oh, it's one of the world's deadliest landing strips. I was like, what? Sure enough, it's in like top 10. Some places say top 3. Yeah, you can go on YouTube and you can have a look. A lot of the time, planes, because the landing strip, the runway, whatever, is so short, a lot of the time, well, a lot compared to other airlines, planes just like crash into the mountain. So there's a mountain right at the end. Anyway, I don't understand it, but apparently it's like super scary. But I missed the whole thing because I'm there thinking about why isn't the Himalayas pink when they say that the salt is pink. Anyway, get to so we're in Nepal now. Get to, or Himalayas, wherever we are, Everest. Anyway, it's all like we're at the bottom of the mountain. I feel like I'm in Sound of Music, right? I can see greenery. I can see multicolored flowers. It's really lovely. You know, I love it. I'm very happy. Wearing my t-shirt, wearing my Target leggings and my new Skechers, and a little hat. Anyway, we start walking that day pretty much. And then we find some accommodation, all good, blah, blah, blah. On day 2, around lunchtime, it's all very exciting because it starts to snow. And that's a big deal for me because I'm not often around it, right? I think the number of times I've seen snow could be counted on one hand in real life. So very excited about the snow. It's picturesque. It's beautiful. I feel like I'm a little figurine inside one of the beautiful snow globes that you shake up, when all the snow comes down. It's so beautiful. I was loving it. I was a bit cold, so I got my jacket out. And I put my jacket on, and I was just waiting to walk through it. I thought it was going to lift. I thought it was going to, no. Do you know it snows nonstop on that mountain? Did you know that? Did you know that like the whole of Mount Everest is snow? Because I didn't. I don't know why it didn't occur to me to I didn't do any research. I didn't go and look at any pictures. I don't know, it was just in my head that I'm going to go and walk up Mount Everest. Didn't even think about this. So what happened was before I went away, I told people in my hiking group that, I'm going to go and, because of course, I've gone from being the worst hiker to now I'm going to go and, just go and like do Everest. So embarrassing looking back on it now. But anyway, they were talking to me about, make sure you get a jacket. And they said to me something about a shell. And I couldn't remember what they said about a shell. So I go to Kathmandu and Kathmandu, the shop here in Melbourne. I go to Kathmandu. They sell all hiking stuff and sports stuff and everything. And I said, I need a jacket, something about a shell. And the lady's like, yeah, sure. Do you need hard shell or soft shell? And I said, what's the difference? And she's like, oh, yeah, one's bit stronger, a bit sturdier, waterproof, all of this. The soft shell's like an inner lining and it's a little bit water resistant, but it's definitely not waterproof and it moves with you a little bit easier and stuff like this. And I said, oh, geez, I'm really not sure. And then she said, well, I'll leave it with you and you just let me know. I said, okay. So I looked at the prices and I went for the cheapest one, which was the soft shell. Yeah. Anyway, for that whole hike up the mountain, I'm there in my Target leggings, which are made of lycra, right? Anyway, my Skechers, which are not snow boots, I have my soft shell jacket, which is not waterproof, and I got a bunch of t-shirts because that's what I normally wear on a hike, because when you hike, you get hot and you want to take stuff off. You don't really want to put stuff on. And then when I arrived, I got gloves and a little beanie. When I arrived, after the Lachlan plane incident thing, when I was there, there's kind of like a little mini village. And so, we were allowed to sort of go and walk around there for a bit. And while I was there, I bought those things because I wanted souvenirs to take home. Anyway, it turned out that I needed them. So I wore them. And anyway, for the whole flippin' hike, I was sodden. And do you know what? The further up you get, the colder it gets. And it was horrible. And so, there was that. And it was really steep, but luckily I had my stocks. So I did have stocks by this stage. So I have my stocks. So I'm using them instead of a stick. I've got my stocks. But then I started to get really depressed because I think just mentally, it's so boring. Everywhere you look is white and you are hiking from like the crack of dawn until sort of mid-afternoon. You can't walk beyond, say, 2 or 3 o'clock because the winds are so bad, it's so cold and it gets dark. You're hiking like sometimes 8 hours, sometimes 9 hours, pretty much nonstop. And it's just trudgery. You're just trudging knee deep into freezing cold snow. And it's snowing on you. And so I'm complaining, I'm annoyed, like I want off the mountain, all of this. It's really hard. And anyway, we have these stops along the way where you get food and of an evening accommodation. And anyway, these huts are, I don't know, like, let's just say WorkSafe probably wouldn't approve of them. A lot of them are made of plywood, let's just say. And the beds are made of plywood. The toilet is plywood. Like, it's, yeah. Anyway, I don't want to see any more plywood ever. But anyway, so the reason that it's plywood, by the way, is because there's no trees on the mountain, because nothing can grow there. And so they rely on ox to transport things up and down the mountain. And so, yeah, they have to do what the ox can carry, and the ox can manage, planks of plywood. So this is what it's like. Anyway, I remember like getting so annoyed because when it was lunchtime, it would stop at one of these little huts. I always remember there were people, usually guys, no offense to guys if you're listening, but they'll be sitting down at one table, or they would have pushed a whole bunch of tables together, and they'd all have out National Geographic maps and, their iPhones and GPS things. And, they had these things that they were solar panels. They are kind of like concertina, like they look about the size of an iPad, but they're all sort of joined together, and it's just solar panels. And so they were able to like recharge their devices all the time. I never thought of anything like that, right? So I was barely using my phone because I was worried I couldn't charge it. But they were thoughtful. They had all these things, and they were laughing, and they were like so happy and getting along with each other, and they were dry. And there's me sitting over there, not loving it, wet. And anyway, one of the first times that I stopped at one of these huts and wasn't loving it, I was eating the food, and it turns out the menu stays the same throughout the whole entire trek, except food gets removed from the list because it's just not available. So early on, you can order let's call it a Mount Everest curry, and it's quite colourful. But the further up the mountain you get, there's nothing of colour in it because they can't get the produce there. So, and they can't grow stuff and all of this. So the food becomes white. They're relying now on apples and potatoes. So everything is an apple and a potato with some flour on it, basically. That's what you're living on. It's really hard. It's really hard. Like, it's so hard. Anyway, and so, yeah, I'm there and I'm eating it's called a Nepal set. That's what it was called. It was called a Nepalese set. And what it is it's like you get a few little dishes, and it's exciting because it's the first time you've had it. But once you've had it for 50 times, it's like not exciting anymore. But anyway, it's got all like a little colourful salad. You've got a little bit of tomato, you've got a little bit of capsicum, stuff like that. All good. And it's got some heated up stuff. Fine. But then I'm there and I'm eating it. I'm like, this doesn't taste right. There's something not right about this. And I start coughing and I don't know why. And I know I'm not allergic to anything. I don't know what's going on. And anyway, sorry, just putting the password thing into the computer here because my screensaver's come on. Yeah. And anyway, I'm like, I don't know, like maybe like what's in it? And then I'm talking, with the translator, with the Sherpa, to whoever's cooked the food, and then they're like, well, just come into the kitchen and you can have a look at everything. Like maybe that'll be easier than trying to translate. I go into the kitchen and I see that they've got this wooden stove, and the lady is getting these circular discs, and she's like putting them in the bottom of the stove, and there's fire, and like this is how they're cooking. It's like all done on an open fire, and I'm saying to my Sherpa, like, what are these discs? Because it's actually really smoky as well. And he says, oh, it's oxen poo. Yak poo. They're yaks. Sorry, not oxen. They're yaks. It's yak dung. Yeah, they dry it during the day, and then use it for fuel because we don't have any other fuel sources up here. And I was like, so all the food that she's cooking has been like essentially smoked with yak poo. Yep. And guess what? In some of these little huts, they have like a little furnace, and there's usually like a little guard around the furnace, and you can go and put your gloves on there, for example, and just sort of let them dry off. But when you do, they smell like poop. So bad. That's what I mean. It's so bad. And this one night I was there and I was asleep, and well, trying to go to sleep, and you're all in together, right? You're just in with all these people that you don't know. There's no private rooms or anything like that. Oftentimes you're sleeping on, it's minimal because they just can't get stuff up there, right? I mean, you are lucky if you're on a bed frame that's made of plywood. Seriously, that is lucky. That's heaven. People will fight for those beds because you're not on the floor, right? Anyway, so I remember like this one night, I was so upset. I was just miserable. Been a horrible day. Everything was white outside with this hike, and then all the food was white. Everything smelt like you know what. I was damp. You don't shower. You just use baby wipes the whole time. So I really wanted to shower. My hair was horrible, and I was just like miserable, feeling very sorry for myself. And I was laying there, and seriously, it was just like water torture. I had this constant drip in the middle of my forehead, coming down from the rafters above. It was just like the whole place was leaking. There wasn't anything that anybody could do about it. It was just so bad. We were all getting wet. Anyway, we're walking along, and the Sherpa and I were walking along, and still I'm complaining. And the poor guy, as I said, he was only a baby. I don't know, the poor guy. He did such a good job. But anyway, we're walking along, and he's trying to cheer me up because I'm doing the whole "are we nearly there yet?" because I'm over it. Like, we're nearly there yet. We're nearly there yet. The other thing too is you got to drink garlic and ginger tea, right? So my Sherpa, he's like, you're not going to take any medicine. So there are people that take medicine when they go and they do this hike because they're altitude sickness, right? It's really dangerous. People die from the altitude sickness. It's so dangerous. And he was like, no, we're not going to do that. You don't need that. We're going to do it the Sherpa way. Every day you're going to drink a liter of I can't believe I did this. Every day you're going to drink a liter of garlic soup, and you're going to drink a 2-liter thermos of ginger tea. Now, the first time you do this, and maybe the first few times you do this, it's fun, right? It's fun. You get a really nice soup, you get a really nice ginger tea. It's even got slivers of real ginger in it. You feel pretty special. It feels great. The further up the mountain you go, the worse it gets. Like, the last lot of garlic soup I had was a bowl of tepid water that this is so bad. It was a bowl of tepid water. They didn't have any garlic. They had just shaken like Master Foods powdered garlic, like garlic seasoning onto this bowl of tepid water, and my Sherpa's standing there going, drink it. And I was crying. And then he's like, and drink the ginger tea. And then I looked at the ginger tea, and they'd done the same thing. It was like some tepid water, and they just shaken like ginger seasoning onto the top of it, and I was just crying. This happened for days, and days and days. So when you're eating that every single day, and then all your food is white, and then all you see is white when you're walking outside, it's hard. Mentally, it's a struggle. And so this particular day, we're walking, and when you walk up Mount Everest, sometimes there are really cool things like stairs that have been carved into the mountain, or there have been concrete slabs. Like people have actually gone to the trouble of making, well, they're not concrete, but they're like slabs or stones or something like that to make it easier for you to try and walk up. Other times it's really scary and dangerous, and I'm talking about a very, 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 very narrow path that you've got to walk on, and you are right leaning up against the side of that mountain, because if you move off the path, it's a straight drop. There's no guardrail to save you. It's a straight drop. And there was a time that I nearly fell off the mountain because somebody was bringing yuck down the mountain. It was a total nightmare. It was horrible. But anyway, on this particular part of the journey, I'm walking along, and it happened to be a very narrow peak with a drop on either side. Okay. So there wasn't much space to put your feet. You had to pretty much put your foot one in front of the other. Like, it was so narrow, I couldn't use my stocks because there wasn't enough space either side of me to plow them in. That's how narrow it was. And then to the left, to the right, boom, straight drop. So we're walking along there. All I'm seeing is more of the same. And I'm doing the whole, "Are we nearly there yet?" He tells me, "Yes, we're nearly there." My spirits lift. I'm so excited. And then I say to him further along, "Oh, how much further?" And then he says, 3 days, miss, just 3 days. And then I lost my, I lost it. I let go of my stocks, intentionally. I threw them down the mountain. I was not a happy camper. I, sat down straddling this peak and just bawled my eyes out. And just lost it. I did not want to go on. I was done. I was over it. Eventually, he's trying to make it better, but it's making it worse because I am not in a mood for having it to be made better. And then eventually I get up, and as I'm starting to carefully get back up, I see behind me that the guys who are dry, who've got the National Geographic, equipment and stuff, and they've got their solar panel chargers charging on over the top of their backpacks and everything, they're coming. And I didn't want them to see that I was having a meltdown or that I'd been crying or anything. So I got up pretty quick and I picked up the pace and off we went. Anyway, do you want to know the worst part? The worst part is when you start this hike, your Sherpa tells you every day, "Oh, today we're going to do 30 kilometers. Oh, tomorrow we're going to do, just 2 kilometers," and all this. So you always know. And then on this particular day, my Sherpa didn't tell me the distance, and I didn't even think to ask. And then when we were sitting down getting ready for dinner and stuff like that, I was apologizing about my behavior, and he was forgiving me, which was very nice of him. And then I said, "Yeah, so how far did we go today?" And do you know what he said? 800 meters, miss. And I was like, "But we were out there from 8 a.m. till 3 p.m. And he's like, "Yes." And I said, what are you so excited about? And he's like, "Oh, you did really well." I was like, "What?" And I didn't realize that the higher up you go, the thinner the air. You're actually doing walking on the moon. but you feel like you're walking tens of kilometers. You have no concept of time. You have no concept of distance. And you are not even aware that it's like you're walking on the moon. You're doing slow motion walk. It doesn't even occur to you. And it's because your body can't get the oxygen. And every step is probably the equivalent of a kilometre in itself. I mean, it's fascinating. And the higher up you go, the less and less you walk. Isn't that fascinating? But anyway, it's equally annoying. So anyway, we eventually get to base camp, and I am so excited. I'm so excited because, I want to party. I saw the film, and I know that you get to go to a disco, and I know that there are going to be other people at the disco, and I know how to dance because now I've been having dance lessons, and I'm really excited. And then I get there, and guess what? No disco. Just a great big rock. And on the rock, it says, this is the altitude, this is the elevation above sea level, you made it, there's some Tibetan Buddhist flags on there, all the things. Yeah. So really disappointing, huge anticlimax. But there are people sort of lingering around, and I don't know why, but for some reason I sort of get it in my head that I want to do a handstand to mark the occasion. And I also think that would be a pretty impressive thing to do. So I get my person to take a photo of me doing it. And I'm so proud of myself for doing it. And I know that everybody's going to be so impressed. So anyway, I do this handstand. I do the handstand. And, eventually I flip out of it, and I'm, brushing off my hands and everything. I'm smiling and nodding, making sure the photo's been taken and everything. Then I turn around expecting that people are going to be clapping or, saying, yeah, and stuff like this. And actually nobody's even paid any attention. And I just go, okay, I'll have to do it again then. So I did it again. And this time, do you know what? I hold the handstand for so long, which is really hard because my hands are slipping because I'm wearing gloves on the ice, and my hands are starting to slip. And I'm thinking, I've got to dismount, right? I've got to dismount. But I was holding it because I really wanted to, show off. Anyway, I come out of it. Again, nobody's even watching. So, okay. All right. Big deal. So what? Who cares? Nobody was meant to see me do it. It's fine. It's enough to know that I've got the photo that shows me that I did it. I'll impress people with it when I get back. Anyway, so yeah. And then it's pretty much from there, you start to prepare to come down. So it takes you, I think it was 12 days to get up and a day and a half to come down, because when you're coming down, it's a race against time. Because of the altitude, you have to literally race your little butt off. You are running down the mountain, because if you don't, you can die, which I love, because I love a little bit of adrenaline. I love being on the edge. Mind you, I'm not a fan of heights, so yeah, don't dare me to do a bungee jump or anything, because that'll never happen. But I love risk. I really love risk. I think that's why I got so excited when I was there for the Arab Springs uprising in Cairo. It was terrifying, but at the same time, I was loving it. Anyway, I know people don't really talk about that, but I'm happy to talk about it, and I will on another episode. But anyway, so I come all the way down the mountain, and, it's pretty much it. So that was my story. And the parallel that I wanted to draw for my client was that, hey, the reason that it feels hard is because you've been totally unprepared. Because this was her other thing. She was like, I don't get it, Brooklyn. I was so good when I was studying that my teacher used to use my work as examples for other students, that I was often told that I was at the top of my class by all the tutors. Like, everybody knew that I was a go-to person for everything we were learning about mental health and counselling and stuff like that. So I just don't understand how it's not working out for me in business. So I was saying to her, well, it's like I thought that I was, all that in a biscuit when I finally figured out you just need a stick to get up the hills with my hiking club. I thought there wasn't anything more to know. So then I just go off and think I'm going to be able to handle Everest. It's like you thought that because you knew everything about counselling that you were just going to be right to go off and start a private practice. But just like I didn't have the right attire, I didn't have the right equipment, I didn't, it was hard. I didn't prepare mentally. I didn't have a strategy. I didn't, I was winging it. I totally was winging that whole experience. And the thing that really annoyed me was seeing that other people weren't. Other people were enjoying it. They were having fun. It was easier for them than it was for me because they were dry and because they bought chargers for their phones. Oh, the other thing was, how I discarded my first aid kit because I was like, not going to need that. On day 2, also just after it started snowing, I'm getting an ache in my jaw. I don't know what it is, but it's throbbing. Like, I don't know what on earth is going on. It continues to throb and throb and throb and throb and throb. Anyway, I'm in so much pain, and there's not a chemist on Everest. Like, I'm stuffed because my Sherpa's like, we don't do medicine. You're going to do it all the natural way. And nobody, I couldn't, where am I going to get medicine from? I had no idea what was wrong. I get down the mountain and back to civilization, and I'm over in Kathmandu, and I go to a chemist there, and I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with my mouth. She's like, I'll come around here behind the counter. I go around behind the counter. She has a look. She touches it, blah, blah, blah. She's like, oh, you got a double abscess. And she gives me a sheet of medicine. I don't know what it was. And I just was like, thank you. I didn't pay very much money for it, and because everything's like super cheap. And then I popped 2, had them with some street food. It was a street food falafel, which was so good that I ended up I had money that I could spend there, and I was going to go and buy myself some dry clothes, right? Because I'd been so wet all this time. But I ended up spending the money that I was going to spend on dry clothes on falafels. Anyway, so yeah, and I've got a photo of my face, and my whole right side is like totally swollen, totally blown up with a double abscess. Turns out that was actually a really dangerous thing to do, to hike a mountain at altitude with dental issues and no medicine, no pain relief. But anyway, that's fine. So I was telling my client, it's just like I didn't have all those things. I was totally winging it, and it was hard, and I was crying, and I wanted to give up, and I had tantrums, and I was, all the things, thinking it was never going to work for me, thinking I would never get there, all of that, and having very little support. That's what you've been doing with your business. You didn't research it. You didn't get the book on how to have a private practice. You didn't go and do a course that was going to prepare you for it. You didn't have the gear. You didn't have the equipment. You didn't have all the stuff, right? She just didn't have it. She didn't have practice management software. She didn't have a booking system. She didn't have a way to take payments. Everything was manual on scrap pieces of paper. And she was doing the best that she could. And it wasn't working. And so now here I am saying, oh, well, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. And so she's on this constant steep learning curve. So I drew the analogy as a teachable moment for her. It landed, which was good. But you know what? I never thought while I was doing that trek at the time, I never ever thought that I'd be using this story in my business as an analogy or as a metaphor to help other women in business. But it just makes so much sense. I can absolutely relate to the feeling of being ripped off with, being sold a story that it isn't working, that isn't true. And I can see it from her perspective as well, because she looks around and she's like, I'm doing all of these things and it's really hard, and why isn't it working and stuff like that. But she's seen her colleagues and her peers like smashing it. I've got a fully booked diary, I've got a wait list, I've got this, I've got that. But she didn't understand that they did go and get prepared before they took the hike, right? Before they opened their business. They did the prep work first. And that's why practice momentum is here. It helps prepare you if you're getting ready to start. So there are women inside the program who are finishing their masters, who are finishing their batch, who are finishing their diplomas, and they're studying full time, and they're also planning. They're wanting to learn all the things so they can get it all set up so it's right from the get-go. But then there's also people in momentum who've been in private practice for a while and are struggling. And so the reason that they've joined is to find out, why am I struggling? And so now they're getting all of the missing pieces, right? All of the knowledge they didn't have, the skills they didn't have, all of that. And as a result, they're just doing so well. Like I told you, there was one of the girls in there, she was saying recently that she doubled her income. And then just this week, more of them are converting Medicare clients over to full fee paying, which is great. I'm just trying to find it because I put it somewhere. Oh, yeah. People just get new clients. Like, it's working. So anyway, I did a shortened version of this whole story and sent it out in an email at the start of the week. And you know how like you send out an email and sometimes you get a few replies and stuff like that? Well, I got a lot of replies to this one. And so I thought it was definitely worthwhile maybe, elaborating on it a little bit and sharing it with you in a podcast episode. So thank you so much for listening to it. I really, really hope that it helped. And just to give you a little bit of an update, because this all happened on the weekend and today is Wednesday, right? This all happened on the weekend. And anyway, since then, she's like had an inquiry, and guess what? This person converted, all the things, appointment booked, done, dusted. Do you know what I mean? Like, it works. So yeah, I just wanted to share it because I thought, if you feel like you're working really, really hard, you're going up that mountain and it's feeling hard, it's probably because you're just missing a few things and you don't know, and you just weren't prepared for the trek. And yeah, I just want you to know that there is help there, and that's what I do. It's what I do all day long. Help women get their private practices better. And here's the other thing too, right? It's not about the, come and join Practice and Mentor or anything like that. So that's not what this is about. What this is about is you being able to sleep at night, not worrying about whether or not you're going to be able to pay yourself. This is about you feeling like you're on top of things, not behind. It's about you feeling like you're not chasing things, like there's this elusive missing piece and you just can't figure it out. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's about you being able to have the lifestyle that you really wanted. Like, when I started, I didn't want to be working as long. Like, I wanted to just work like half days or something like that and have the afternoons to practice my dancing. That's how all this started. But I don't know what it means for you. Like, but I would imagine you didn't leave a 8.5 or 9 hour a day job to go and work, 16 hours. Like, nobody deliberately does that. You probably wanted to work less hours. And so, yeah, it's about giving you that. But you can't have that unless you know how to do it. And that's all momentum is. That's all practice momentum is. It's the bridge. That's it. So you can have those things. You absolutely can have those things, and you can keep doing like what you're doing, no problem. And maybe you'll get there. It's just going to take you so much longer, and why wait? Like, you don't have to. I really wish that something like momentum had been around when I started my private practice, but it just wasn't. Like, I could have done so many different things. Like, the situation with the house at the moment, like how I paid off my mother's mortgage and now like I live at my mother's house so that I can look after her and things like that. Now I'm like working on getting my own place again, right? But if somebody had taught me this stuff now that I teach you guys, if somebody had taught me that right from the beginning of my business, and I've been in business for 30 years, oh my God, I could have bought all my family a house. I could have gone on so many more adventures because I love going on adventures so much. To me, I don't really like downtime isn't really a thing because I like to be busy usually. Or I'm either all or nothing. So I'm either going to like sit in a bath and be really still, or I'm just going to be like all in on my current, fixation. So for me, it's not really about the amount of time I spend in or on work. For me, it's really about having choice and flexibility over who I work with, the hours that I work or don't work, the type of clients I work with. Like, I just want total freedom and choice over that. And I didn't have it for the longest time because no one showed me how to do it. So that's why it's so important to me to teach you how to do it, because as I said, like, my superannuation would have been so much more than it is now. That's why I ride you about it. I'm always saying to you, make sure that you put money away in your super, because I didn't. I'm now 50 years old and I'm putting like, I was just speaking with my financial advisor recently and saying to her, look, I want to put 20% of my earnings into my super so that I actually can try and play catch up a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I do not want any of you to be in that position. So it's why I love what I do. And then the other reason that I love what I do is because it's just so exciting to like hear everybody celebrating and to hear their results. And I love that. But I also love the breakthrough moments that they have. I really love it when they're struggling, which I know that doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean? Like, I really love it when they're struggling because it gives me a chance to step in and help. And that's what I really, really, really was born to do. And it just feels so good to be able to do that for them. And, the way that I work in this program has allowed me to get to know so many of them beyond whatever would have been possible in a traditional business mentoring, business consulting, business coaching type of way. Like, I don't know, it's just so beautiful. Like, I'm hearing about weddings, I'm hearing about plans to have children or not, I'm hearing about people's pregnancies, I'm hearing about what people are doing on the weekend. It's just like, it's proper connection, and they're having those connections with each other too. And it's just, I can't imagine life without momentum now. I really can't. And one of my clients was saying to me yesterday, she's another one who's in a sticky situation, no fault of her own, but, she's needing a little bit of support through that. But she was saying to me yesterday, can I be in momentum forever? Like, it's so helpful. I just love it so much. I was like, of course you can. But anyway, I'll let you go. If you want any information about momentum, though, of course, just ask me. You know how to do that. Reach out, leave a comment. You know how to find me. You can just Google me and my website will come up. But it's there if you want it. You don't have to, like my teachable moment, you don't have to go up that mountain alone and cry and have tantrums and, hate life. Like, it gets to be easy, honestly, and you can do it. All right, my lovelies, have a beautiful day. Bye. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Private Practice Podcast. So as you reflect on today's insights, imagine creating real success in your private practice without going down rabbit holes or exhausting yourself with business activities that don't move the needle. With Practice Momentum, you have push of a button help available on demand. It's like having an expert in your pocket ready to guide you whenever you need it. Visit brooklynstorm.com to discover how Practice Momentum can transform your approach to building a thriving practice. I'm Dr. Brooklyn Storm, and I'll see you next time as we continue exploring the mind, business, and spirit of private practice success.